Hi, everyone. It looks like, based on the attendee list, we've got pretty much everybody that registered here. So in the interest of time, we'll get started. First want to start, thank you all, for not just joining us today, but for your constant communication with these past couple of weeks and months now. When this all kind of came to fruition, I've talked to many of you about many different topics. And when this first came out, FoxRock sat down as a team and said, all right, how are we going to handle this? We know how to manage buildings. We've been doing it for many years. This one doesn't have a playbook. So what are we going to define as what's the most important things that we can really bring to our tenants and for our buildings? And we collectively, as a team, said communication, and let's collaborate and work together, because we don't have all the answers, and I'll repeat that through this whole presentation. But we're gonna listen. We're gonna use our resources in the city with bigger real estate firms. We're gonna listen to the state, and we're gonna bring whatever resources we can to our tenants. I'm sure many of you were getting a little sick of seeing the COVID update emails from me, but we really felt it was important to communicate as best as we could to you all, to our tenant community, whether we knew a lot of information or little information. We wanted to make sure we put it in front of you guys, so that you could be informed as best as we were as we worked through this together. So transparency was important, and we're going to continue that right through this whole plan and until we get up and running again, and even through the seasonal changes that we feel may be here next winter. But we're going to continue to grow and build on that, our tenant relations and our communication as we work through this. So I do want to thank you all, and again, please continue to reach out. I think there's a silver lining in all of this, and I think the tenant relations and the tenant landlord relationship has certainly grown in my eyes, and we truly appreciate the collaboration and the help so far that you have all given us as we work through this together. I have a couple of FoxRock teammates on this call with us supporting that. The marketing team, office management team, everybody's kind of just jumped in, all hands on deck. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that they've done a lot of work to help put all of this together, and we'll continue to work together to get back up and running here. You guys are all on mute. I don't have the ability to change that, but there's a question bar on, I believe, your right of your screen. So pop in some questions. I've got some teammates helping to jot those down, and we'll certainly save some time at the end. I sent this out early so you all could get a chance to look at it and prepare some questions. So I won't bore you with all 19 slides. We'll kind of fire through these. But again, our goal with the platform here was just to kind of personalize it, explain our messaging, explain what we see coming down the pipe and what we plan to do in the next couple of months, weeks, as we get ready to invite you all back to the building. And we want to welcome you all back. I think many of the buildings, we were starting a lot of tenant engagement and networking and lots of good events that we will get back to, I promise you, and we'll enjoy those days again as soon as we can safely. So let's go. So bear with me. What do you guys see? There we go. So again, kind of spoke to this. Our overarching messaging is collaboration. There's a ton of information out there, and again, we are in the field of reactive response, and we prepare for many different things that can go wrong and right at the building. And this wasn't one of them, not at this magnitude. So we really had to kind of dig in, use our resources, our vendors, our real estate colleagues, and learn what they're doing in the city on different platforms, and really try to bring all of those best practices to the buildings. But it's not going to work without you, the tenants. We can give you as many resources and put as many protocols in place at the buildings, but until you guys buy in and really help us, it's going to have to be pushed out to the tenant spaces, and we're going to have to collaborate together on that. And we're confident that we will. And we know we've got a great tenant community, and we know you guys are going to, kind of jump in, and many of you already have. Reach out and talk about the issues, tell us what you guys are planning, and we're going to try to do the same with the base building. So we'll keep going here. All right, so reopening the workplace, as you all know, we never truly closed it. The team, the engineers were here on a kind of a reduced staff to still maintain the building. Some of the people, tenants never really had to close at all. So we wanted to make sure we could provide resources as we normally do, pertaining to operations. But we're ramping back up. The team, we'll get into that in a minute. They're going to be, they're out and about and they're at the buildings preparing for your return. But again, our priority is health and safety. And we're going to do what we can to try to make sure that every FoxRock building we minimize the risk the best we can. And we're going to make a healthy and safe working environment so that you guys can bring your staff back and feel comfortable and confident that we're doing everything we can to try to create that environment. Sorry, that wasn't a tenant. We'll get that later. Environmental and behavioral best practices. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of information floating around out there. A lot of it's new. A lot of it we've combed through. We've tried to see what works, what doesn't work for all of our different buildings. And this is just a slide to get you all thinking about what you can do inside your own spaces, along with some things that we're going to be doing, throughout the building. So it's kind of twofold, right? There's things in the environment we can change, and we can certainly discourage things like gathering and encourage social distancing. And then there's going to be things that we all are just kind of getting used to. It's to be determined if the handshake ever returns. So there's going to be some things that change in that way. There's things that we can start thinking about of, clean desk policy and cell phone instead of your office phone, or wiping down your own equipment within your space, helping staff understand, what your new layout's going to look like, and what that's going to mean for when they return. So again, just a resource guide. Some things that are, in the industry that people have been discussing, and things that we're, I'm going to talk in more depth on a lot of these things, but just kind of want to put that out there for you guys to start thinking about for your own space as well. Many of you have sent me the health and safety representative, so thank you. Again, I know we've got fire wardens, we've got office contacts, and we've tried to reach everybody in those broadcast messages, but this will really be somebody, the state's identified this as an important piece as we work together, coming back to the workplace. And this person will know the policies for your own staff and business, and then we'll be the person, the point of contact for as we roll out new initiatives or changes to the policy. You all know there's a phased approach to this, so any updates on that, we'll be the contact for this person to make sure that we're all on the same page. Again, collaboration, working together is really going to get us through these, these next couple of months, or however long this lasts. So please send those in if you haven't, and we'll make sure we get those people on the proper platform for all communication related to health and safety for the building. The incident response. So as I mentioned, we took the approach that we wanted to communicate as best we could with all the tenants. Some other ownerships may not want to tell you if there was an issue in the building, but we really felt there was no need to hide. It is what it is. It happened. This is how we're responding. And we felt we had a pretty strong response in terms of cleaning, disinfecting, and getting the buildings back up and operational again. So that will continue. Jack Martz on our team is, he's been on with FoxRock for a while. Many of you know him. He's taken on a safety and compliance officer role about a year ago now, and was instrumental in helping me put together some of the incident response matrix for our own team, for the guys, for what happens if someone comes up to you and says they have a positive case, or we get the phone call, who do we have to deploy? I will say through technology, for a couple of the instances at 141, we were able to even use scans of spaces, directs the cleaners, and our team didn't even have to go into the building, which was great. So we could show them the outline. Andrew and the team directed them exactly where they needed to clean. So it was nice to be able to use that stuff that we've been kind of working on the last couple of years and see it in real life. So as we come back, any incidents that happen with somebody sick or potentially sick or truly has a positive case, please reach out. Most of you have reached out to me. I can be the point of contact along with Jack, and we will respond accordingly. We're going to continue as people come back to take the same measures that we took when the buildings were, lighter staffed, where communication goes out immediately. We notify you to let you know where the issue happened and what we're doing to clean it. It's a little bit of a case by case, depending on how direct that contact was, how we do the cleaning, but every type of cleaning does involve disinfecting with proper products that are known to kill viruses. We purchased even some more electrostatic sprayers and some backpacks so that we have extra stuff. We have extra PPE so that if our cleaners ever can't get to something, we also have some backup in the buildings as well. So, and we're continuing to try to source that stuff, as you can imagine. It's hard to come by, but again, we've partnered with some really good vendors that relationships are strong, and they need to be in situations like this. So they've really helped us kind of get the products into our hands that we need. So as I mentioned, we're going to give you resources. We're going to just kind of promote what the state and the most recent guidelines are, and we're going to put that in front of you. All of the information that we put together, for the most part, is not something that we've come up with on our own. It's either best practices, it's state guidelines, it's what other real estate companies are doing, what we feel is best for the building. So we've got this slide in there, just kind of reminding you of some of the things that are already in place: social distancing, face masks and covering, limiting the guests, trying to, obviously washing your hands, and then just staying home if you're sick. The goal is to not create an environment where our tenants, we want you to feel comfortable. We want you to communicate with us, but we want you to work together. It's good to note if somebody's not wearing a mask. We're again trying to hope that each tenant you'll take this information back to your employees and say, hey guys, we got a team up here. This is what they're trying to, do to keep us safe at the buildings, and really try to help drive that point home without us having to become the COVID police, because that's not a position we want to be in. As I mentioned, we want to really give you the information that we have, keep it up to date, and then provide you with best practices. And we'll do our part by, limiting common area until it's safe, and keeping the cafes closed until it's safe, and things of that nature, and ask people to wear face masks and coverings. And it's not you're going to get kicked out of the building. It's not a political stance. It's nothing to do with that. It's really just what the state is still recommending. When you can't social distance, you should be wearing a face mask. I obviously don't have one on right now. I'm in 141 for the first time in a while, just because 5 and 3-year-olds don't do well with webinars at home. But walking in and out of the building, I wore a mask, and we're gonna practice what we preach here for sure, and be part of that same kind of solution. So, and again, as phases change, things update. If restrictions get pared back, we will certainly keep you guys updated as protocols within the building change as well. Okay, so preparing the building, our team and what we are doing. The engineers, as I mentioned, they scaled back some on-site hours, did some off-site, training, took advantage of a little bit of the quieter time in the buildings, but still maintaining, routine inspections, making sure the systems were all working properly. And now we've ramped that back up to every guy's pretty much 40 hours back at the building. There's a reopening checklist, making sure that we're checking on the mechanical systems. We've already started a lot of this work, but potable water sits, things that don't get a lot of use. We need to make sure we're checking all that, and that it's ready for you when you come back to the buildings full time. So HVAC, our team, all of our vendors have already started this process. I'll get into a little more specifics on HVAC, but know that you're coming back to a building that we're ready, we're excited, and we've actually taken advantage of this quiet time to do some more projects. Many of you will come back to a newly sealed and striped parking lot. We're going to try to get some projects done, painting common areas, or things that we like to take care of in the summer when it's a slower season anyway, that we'll really take advantage of the quieter time and make sure that stuff can get done while you're not here. We can't avoid everything, but our kind of message to the team was, listen, the tenants are not here. Let's not have them come back and then annoy them to say, oh, by the way, we're going to block off the parking lot because we're going to restripe it, or we're going to wash the windows and now we're going to have to ask you to move your car. So we tried to take advantage of having a less occupied building and things that we could do to get out of the way while you're not here, so that when you come back, you can operate and be ready to work. So all the base building systems, that's the primary focus for the team. And again, our team, they've gone through extra OSHA training. They're going to be wearing the proper PPE for the job that they're doing. So whatever the personal protective equipment is for that job, along with, you know, anything over and above that the state is requiring, face masks, gloves, things of that nature. They've really, the team's really honed in on what they need to be doing, and they've done a great job with still working hard while the buildings were quiet and in this kind of interesting environment. Other things we can control. So we're trying to, again, do our part with limiting our risk at the buildings. Our vendor and contractor protocols, we've kind of increased the standard building rules and regulations as it relates to vendors and contractors coming to the building. We have a new vendor protocol, which we will circulate to all of you guys, because we do want that to get passed out to any vendors that are be coming into your space. It's not over and above anything that the state's not requiring, just to minimize the risk and for social distancing. Wear the proper PPE. We're going to try where we can at certain buildings designate entrances for contractors and vendors. I'd say contractors is going to be stricter than vendors, but we're working on that. And then we've asked all vendors to tell us what their protocols are for their own employees. So do you ask people if they're sick? What's your protocol for if somebody does come down with, you know, COVID? What are the steps that you're taking and notifying us, you know, immediately? So, so far everybody's been pretty much in line with what we're doing. So we're confident that that will continue. And again, we'll circulate our vendor protocols so that you guys have that for anybody, you know, coming in to do work inside your space. Contractors, you will see we've had some activity, believe it or not, through all of this with some new leasing, especially 350 Granite Street. So we are going to have a couple construction projects underway. I assure you, those are going to be the most checked people in the building. We've had construction meetings and the guidelines are pretty strict. They get asked questions before they can come into the building. They can't take breaks outside. They're limiting the times that they go in and out. Deliveries stay at the dock. They have one COVID safety officer is kind of the liaison between the deliveries and the subs. And that's going to be checked and rechecked and make sure that we're not inviting any, you know, additional potential risk into the buildings. So again, we appreciate your cooperation, as you may see some additional people in the buildings, but they'll be masked. They'll be staying within their spaces that they're working unless they need to exit and enter the building. And again, they've got a pretty strict guidelines that they need to follow, and we'll make sure that they adhere to those. So that, again, we want you in the building, and we know we want the tenants there, and we need the contractors there, but not if, you know, for risk of, you know, infection or potential risk for infection of anybody in the building. So cleaning, everybody's favorite topic. We've had many conversations with many of you. It's a challenging, you know, service that we provide at the buildings, but one that's certainly in the last couple of months been paramount in being able to keep the building safe and clean. As I mentioned a few times, in conjunction with our cleaning vendors, we have partnered. We've really talked to them about the scope of services. How can we economically focus on what we should be focusing on right now versus just the standard old cleaning scope of, yes, you're going to vacuum, you're going to dust, you're going to do all these things to keep the buildings clean. And I'm comfortable that we've increased the frequency, there's higher visibility, and we've improved the processes for sanitizing and disinfecting. You know, out of all these kind of tragedies or troubling times can come some positive, and the way we're approaching this with our cleaning vendors, I'm confident we'll be in a good place and ready for when the occupancy increases. So day staff, you know, cleaners used to be the people that nobody wants to see in the building, but everybody wants to come in and have it be clean. We're going to put those people, and we have already, in front of you more. We're going to increase the day staff, high touch point areas, bathrooms, common areas that we want to make sure are getting proper disinfectant. That's going to be done during the day. We will still have your spaces cleaned at night unless there's a recommendation or a request from a tenant, but we're going to really put that visual cleaning in front of you. I think it makes people feel better. You actually see the people cleaning, and it's needed, right? So that's the busy time of the building. That's when we need to really focus on the high traffic areas and making sure that those are getting hit at the frequency that is being recommended by the CDC and the state. We've purchased some additional equipment. As mentioned, there's these electrostatic sprayers that can cover a large area with a disinfectant that does kill virus, is known to airborne pathogens and viruses. So we've got those. Our cleaners are using them as well, and we have some extra on staff to be able to use when we need it. Again, similar to the vendors and the contractors, all cleaning staff is required to wear the proper PPE, and they've got protocols to inform us should they have somebody come down, or contract COVID-19. So we are monitoring that closely. If you have any additional cleaning services, so this that I'm speaking to is all base building related. If you'd like to have additional services inside your space, that is certainly welcome. And we can connect you directly with the cleaning vendor to kind of coordinate that work. But we will continue this until the foreseeable future. I think, like I said, you wouldn't probably notice if your office wasn't vacuumed every night unless you spilled something, but you would notice, especially now, if something wasn't disinfected. So we can shift that labor. Floor maintenance is a big cost, and we've been able to economically shift that labor to really focus on the disinfecting and pare back the vacuuming outside of high traffic areas, and not increase the overall cost, to the tenants and the building. So one thing we'd like to do, if possible, is offer the tenants a one-time disinfecting cleaning before everybody really comes back to the building. I know they're still cleaning the spaces now, but just as a gesture to make, if it's a peace of mind for your employees, we'll just need to coordinate timing. I know many of you are still working through your dates, but 72 hours notice, and those guys can shift, resources and make sure that they hit that tenant that's coming back on that, that next couple of days, so that it's ready for you, and just has a fresh, disinfecting and cleaning to the space. So we can coordinate individually on that offline and talk more about that as you guys start to figure out when it looks like the full staff will be come back. We'll even do it. I know that obviously the phase one is 25% of your staff. That's still for some of you a big chunk, and we're happy to still do a disinfecting cleaning then. Like I said, we've partnered with these guys pretty well that I'm confident it's in an economical way, that it's not going to cause too much additional cost. They probably hate when I say that, but I'll stand by it. HVAC, okay, so air quality, big one. A lot of people making new products out there. I didn't know there were so many COVID-19 salespeople until this happened, but fortunately, we've got some really good relationships with our HVAC vendors. We've done webinars and listened and really tried to understand what people are selling and putting out there for products. And as many of you know, HVAC isn't a one-size-fits-all. Even the people on this call, you all have different systems within your buildings. There's rooftop units, chillers, there's heat pumps. So we started early with North Star does the majority of our work, Peak does some, MCOR. So we've got partnered with some of the industry leaders and put together a plan that we think is really going to help. We've already jumped on all the HVAC. The coils are being disinfected and cleaned with a product that's known to kill airborne pathogens. The air handlers and fan power filters, those are being changed. MERV 8, if this means anything to anybody, is kind of the standard density of what was being used in the past. It's still fine. MERV 13 has been a little bit, it's a little denser and known to catch a little bit more particles. So medical office buildings we're starting with, MERV 13, as you may imagine, is harder to come by, but we did source quite a few, and we've started with the 8s, and we will swap out the 13s as people come back to the buildings. But starting with the medical office buildings, we've put the 13s in. The buildings that have had a couple of issues, we've put the 13s in there. We feel it's the densest we can go with a filter without, hurting the integrity of the unit, right? So if you restrict too much air, now you're going to tax that unit a little longer and harder. So it's not going to benefit in the long run. So we've there's a good balance there. We've increased the air exchanges. That's a big question for people. So standard is about 25% of your office space or medical space, whatever it is introduced through fresh air. So outside air is brought in at about 25% of your overall air in your space. We've been able to, through economizers and opening those a little bit more, introduce more fresh air and do about 8 to 10 air exchanges, which is more than what we normally would do. I say that with the caveat of coming into the summer. As many of you would know, humid air is not great in the building. We will have to manage that. So it's not a one size fits all. We do have the technologies in place through our controls that we can kind of play with this. The engineers and our vendor know the buildings well, so we will monitor it to make sure there's a good balance of the proper air coming into the building without, you know, too much humidity and heat, and then also making sure that we're getting enough fresh air into the buildings where we can. So again, reach out with questions on that for specifics about your buildings, but I'm confident we're working within the parameters of ASHRAE, which is just basically the governing body of all heating and cooling in buildings, and what our vendors are recommending. I will say we are looking at new technologies. There's some stuff that's come out on UV lighting. There's some stuff that's come out on bipolar ionization. Never thought I'd learn about this stuff, but we're trying out this bipolar ionization in one of the buildings now, just to see if it's something that actually works. It claims it kills some of the particles before it can even get into the system. It's not that expensive, so we're going to try it, see if it works. Again, it's pretty new, so before buying all the snake oil up front, we're going to test it out, and if it works, we will certainly roll it out, you know, where we see fit. So more to come on that, but again, we're keeping educating ourselves as much as we can with the resources we have, and trying to really understand what's out there, what makes sense, what doesn't, and why. So again, I know air quality is a big one. It's been in the news a lot, and I'm happy to answer more questions as they come up, and as we can on that stuff as well. So, so common areas, obviously a place of gather. Obviously, we've worked hard in many of these buildings to create a nice place of gather, which now has to be shut down. So in accordance with the state in the phase 1, we are gonna display quite a bit of signage. We've got a nice signage package. You've seen some pictures in here, but we are also going to limit the use of the common areas for now until we get further guidance that we can really open it. Reduce seating, that you won't see the chairs. Some of the tables are still out. We're hoping that we can, you know, roll that out, because I know many of you use those places, the Wi-Fi lounges and stuff, and they're a great spot to just kind of pop out of your office and do some work. So trust me, as soon as we can open them, then we will. The cafes will remain closed for now. We're working really hard on, especially 141 Longwater, on how we can change that to create a better scenario where you can feel comfortable to go down and grab a sandwich by using some technology. So we've got a new app, and we're going to be able to have you order online through your phone, prepay, go down, pick up a sandwich out of a refrigerator and already have it paid and be able to walk out. So I think salad bars still have a ways to go. Hot food lines, I don't know that people are going to be running back to those. So we wanted to try to say, how can we help the tenants still get a meal while they're here? And then, you know, in a safe and healthy environment. So more to come on that soon. We're working through the details. Any of the buildings that have grab and go markets, those are all prepackaged foods. Those will be open. The seating area will be closed for now, but at least it will give you a chance to go down, grab a sandwich, grab a snack, go back up to your office. And we feel comfortable. We're cleaning those at a higher frequency. So again, we want to create the space and allow you guys to use it. If you don't feel comfortable, nobody's, you know, asking you, that they're telling you that you have to go down and use it. So, you know, the vending machines will be open. Those will still be 6 a.m. health. We've put in a couple, and you know, Avanti markets, the grab and go markets, those will be opened unless we, you know, get different guidance or there's an issue. But for now, those will be open. Outside of One Albion, which is down Rhode Island, because those guidelines are a little different, the fitness centers will remain closed for now. We've been told until the state opens up, we're gonna keep those closed where we have them. More to come, but trust me, we're a big health and wellness team, so we want to get those open so you guys can use them as best we can. Along with the cafes, Longwater's going to have food trucks again. We're going to try to bring some food trucks to 350 Granite and One Heritage. We're working on Braintree Business Park. We think that could be a good option, especially in the summer, to bring you guys some you know, amenities there. Same thing, if we can coordinate some outdoor fitness classes while the gym's closed, or even after it's closed, you know, after it's open. That is an area that they say you can, you know, obviously work out and have plenty of social distancing. So more to come on that stuff, but we will keep working to try to bring you guys, you know, while you're in the buildings, some of those cool and fun things that we've done in the past. Outdoor seating, that can stay open. Obviously, just practicing social distancing. There's no restrictions on that, and please, everybody enjoy the fresh air as much as we can in the few months that we, you know, are allowed to enjoy it. And then deliveries where we can. I mentioned this. We're going to try to limit goes to the loading dock. We're installing some new signage at 141 and 350, trying to really get all the vendors and the delivery guys to go to the loading dock. I know it's tough. Everybody's ordering from Amazon, and sometimes it's dependent upon the delivery driver, but where we can, we're going to try to restrict that and really make them contact you to come down and get the package or leave it down at the loading dock. I think that's it on lobbies, common areas, but again, reach out, questions, reach out, don't be shy. As I said, we're working through this together, and a lot of it comes without precedent, so we're learning as we go. We're hopeful that you guys will all come back and feel comfortable here in the building. So a couple of operational changes, new signage. So we've got signage package, again, just to try to remind everybody, but what you've been hearing about for, months now, 6 feet, social distancing, wash your hands, stay home if you're sick. It's just to kind of drive home that message. Again, not prohibiting, not kicking people out of the building. It's more of a collaborative effort of let's all chip in and do our part, and let's kind of work together so that we all can stay in the buildings, and work safely. We've got, as you've seen, sanitizing dispensers. Those went in almost immediately, and then we jumped on the orders to get more. So we've got a pretty good rotation going. Purell's pretty backed up, as you can imagine. Our vendors have even started their own line just to kind of supplement until we can get more Purell back in the buildings. But we've got a long order that they've chipped away at, and stuff's starting to roll in. So we will make sure that those stay as full as we can throughout all of this. So step and pull devices. So I mentioned that in here. That's again, some of the stuff's gimmicky. I think this one really does work. When we started looking at how do we reduce our touch points, the entry doors and turning them all automatic obviously isn't cost effective or feasible. Trust me, we're looking at some other options, but I think the step and pulls will work for bathroom doors. For the back side of the door, where you can't kind of not use the hand bar, this will give you an option to just step on the door and pull it out with your foot. We've got about 2 dozen in stock now. We've got 2 dozen coming. And I know some of the tenants have already reached out. If you want to put them, if you have bathrooms inside your space, if you want to put them inside your own space, we'll help kind of facilitate that through our vendors. This, in COVID terms, these didn't have that long of a lead time. It was only 14 days. So that wasn't too bad. And we're happy to help kind of facilitate that if you want to put more of them on as you look to get your teams back into the buildings. Faucets and toilets and hands-free. I mean, obviously that's been happening for a while. We do have some buildings where we've had some issues with hard water, where we had to kind of just, make sure that it's the right move. But where we can, we're making sure that those faucets and toilets are hands-free. They work. Obviously batteries and hardwired and figuring all that out. But we do have a lot of them already in the portfolio, which is good. But the guys are taking a, kind of inventory through the buildings and seeing where we can upgrade those. If you have, again, internal bathrooms that you want to put these on, oftentimes we can do that in-house. If not, we can certainly lend out a plumber and help facilitate that. And then one thing that we decided to put together was a kind of a care package. We've got these clean tool keys. Again, not trying to get too gimmicky, but this one actually seemed like it works. It gives you the ability to, when there's not a step and pull or a way to avoid the door handle, you use it to pull open the door. You can punch a keypad. So it's kind of good where you don't want to, use your hands or touch something. It goes right on your keychain. So we've got a bunch of those along with disinfectant wipes. They're these pouches. They're not just for your hands, they're actually for your equipment. So the cleaners, obviously they do a great job with cleaning, horizontal surfaces and all the common areas and even your office spaces. But what they don't really touch is your equipment. Obviously, as everybody knows, phones, keyboards, mouses, obviously like high touch point areas. These wipes can clean all of that. So they're coming next week. We've been hounding the vendor for them, but they will be here. We've got the teams helping put together a nice little care package for you guys that we'll be dropping off at each site. Again, just a little welcome back to the building. We want to make sure you guys feel clean and safe while you're here. Try to do a little bit to do our part, and help any way that we can in that. So again, elevator buttons, keypads, that stuff that we want to reduce the touch points. And we think these kind of items that we've got will be able to do that. All right, So a lot of talking, kind of fired through those slides quickly. The last one's just a resource guide. Again, there's a lot of information out there, as you know. Some of the industry stuff is a little more helpful than what you guys may have access to. So BOEM is a group that we're a part of. We wanted to share some of their best practices. And then the other, the Massachusetts guidelines is just more food for thought. But obviously you guys, you all know where you can get that information online from the, mass.gov, and they've been keeping us updated on all of that stuff as well. So I didn't get into, stating what should be done in the tenant spaces. We really wanted to focus on what we're doing in the base building, set the baseline, give you some ideas, and then how you see fit. Everybody's coming back differently. There's phasing. Every building is impacted differently. So we didn't want to get into the business of telling you how to kind of come back, but we're happy to give you resources. We're happy to share best practices that we've heard. There's different sneeze guards. There's different furniture. There's stuff that people are buying. And we've got some contacts with vendors, that we can certainly share. There's different office layouts. We have scans for 141 and soon to have scans for 350 Granite, which will give you, I'm going to send the links out. It gives you a 3D scan. It's like Google Maps, the same imaging, gives you a scan of your space. So you can just see your office layout. It can also be put onto a plan. And then as you're thinking about coming back in teams or phases or whatever the case may be, you can utilize that as a resource. We don't have them for all the buildings yet. We're working on it. We were working on it before this, and then we just kind of ran out of time before COVID hit. So we will have them eventually, but it's a pretty cool technology that, I think will be helpful as you guys try to start planning out what it looks like for, day one to down, to a couple months down the road of coming back into the building. So I think that's the majority of everything. Again, obviously you guys could read through the material at your leisure. The platform was just to really give our kind of take on it, really drive home the thank you for, working with us up until this point. As I mentioned, there's been discussions of all different magnitude. We're closed, we're open, are we going to survive? Rent relief discussions to how do we bring people back to the buildings? What are you going to do versus what are we going to do? What we've laid out in here is pretty much all we're going to do. We're not going to take people's temperature. We're not going to restrict people from the building in that sense, but we will ask, tenants to work with us, just communicate. Let's be transparent together. And if somebody's sick, hopefully your new plans will promote working from home. We've all proven we can kind of do it, here and there with, children and other things, distractions, but it worked, right? So we proved that. So if we had to go back to that, we could on a shorter long-term basis, but we're hopeful that, we'll encourage people on our own team to stay home if they're sick. They can work from home versus, struggling it out and coming in with a cold and things of that nature. So that's where we'll really pull on the tenants to help us, drive home the message to their teams, and we'll do the best that we can in our buildings. As I said, we certainly don't have all the answers, but we're working together. As we learn every day, we're just going to continue to keep you all informed as the phases change and things open up and things that we come up with that we think will help serve the buildings. We're going to share those. And please share your information. You guys, you have, large corporations and great teams working on this stuff as well. Please share your best practices. And if it's something that may help another tenant, we're happy to, to share that along, pass that along. And if it's going to be something that's going to help the building, we're happy to do that as well. And we're, certainly looking forward to welcoming you all back to the buildings. And, like I said, getting back to the times when we can have ice cream socials and happy hours and networking events, because I think we've got a great community here, and we'll get through this the next couple of months together and hopefully be stronger for it in the end. So really appreciate your time. And I'm gonna check. I know Amy on my team I wanted to leave some time for questions. I think she's got a list for me. All right, come on down. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I apologize. I don't know if these were asked at the beginning or in the middle, but one-time disinfecting, tenant cleaning. If you guys know when, if you're already occupying your space, we can certainly still do it. And it's just going to take a night. That it literally come in a night. They utilize the sprayers. there's a dwell period, but at night it won't matter because it's only like 30 minutes. And then they can, they can go through, clean the bathrooms a little bit harder. But so if you're already in the space and we missed you, I apologize. But there's no worry. We can still get that done and scheduled, and if that's going to be something it'll help the people that are already there and then help more people that are coming back later. So just reach out and we'll help schedule that with the cleaners. And again, that's no additional cost to the tenants. That's we'll take care of that cost with our vendor. HVAC system complete. So I will get an update. We've already started with our vendor. So they started about a month ago now, going through the systems to do the normal. So I'll back up a second. We never stopped doing the preventative maintenance on the HVAC systems. Filter changes are done quarterly. Obviously, responses to any repairs is done on an as-needed basis. But in light of, we did this quarter, cleaning. We added the cleaning, the disinfecting, and then we also moved up the date of the filters and then started to research what filters we should be putting in. So I will individually, I can have the APMs reach out to you guys. I know they've already been through quite a few parks and they've got the disinfecting and the filter changes done. But I just need to get a list, so I will, and we'll make sure before the end of the week we update you on if your building's been done. If it hasn't been done, again, it won't. I mean, air quality is a tough one, but I will say the filters that were in there were fine. We're just taking a little bit additional preventative measures based on what we've read and seen, and the coil cleaning will be good because it's been kind of stale a little bit. The building's been quieter anyway, so we should get the cleaning done, the filters done, and then open up those economizers where we can to introduce that fresh air. All right, bathroom poles, is that a cost of the tenant? So bathroom poles, good question. We're going to put them on the common area bathrooms. They're not that expensive. If tenants have bathrooms within their space, I would say that would be a cost to the tenant, right? Because that shouldn't be a shared cost among all tenants through CAM. But we're happy to reach out. I just got a quote today. I don't want to quote me, but $24. I forget. They're not that expensive, and we can work with our vendor on bulk ordering. We get some purchasing power there. So we're happy to do that. I know a couple of tenants, Morgan Stanley, you guys reached out. We'll happy to put any of this stuff. I'm going to put together a little slide, just for, summary of the vendors we've worked with for signage, for step-in poles. A couple others have reached out about some shield guards that they may want to install, just so you guys have those resources, and you can reach out to them directly. We're happy to facilitate, but that might just move things a little bit more quickly. All right. That's it, 3 questions. So again, appreciate the time. Kept it under an hour. Hopefully it didn't bore you. And we got one more. I feel like I'm on the Leno show. Yes, good question. Sharing the slide. So for anybody that couldn't attend, whether I liked it or not, this was recorded. So we will share that with everybody so that they can, you can share that with any employees that didn't make it, and then we'll send it out to the tenants so that they maybe couldn't make the presentation, so that they can hear all of this great knowledge. If you want visitors, contractors, cleaners, flower, anybody to submit a temperature check, is that okay? If you have a direct entrance to your space, you are welcome to dictate who and how and why people come into your space. If it's a common area, it's a little bit harder. We're doing what we feel is best in the way of limiting our exposure. But again, we made a decision early on not to get into the position where we would be taking everybody's temperature, and using that information to either allow or disallow them into the building. We want, again, just kind of really pushing the tenants to follow these best practices, notification, alerting us if somebody is sick and they have been in the building. Again, our buildings aren't all the same, but where we can, we're going to try to limit those deliveries to the loading dock or a specific entrance for vendors, calling the tenants before they come in, so that if we can keep them down outside, we will. And contractors will be held to a higher standard, because we feel that's not your visitors. That's not, routine maintenance. That's people we're bringing into the building because we need to get a job done. and we can control that a little bit better. And the GCs are really working with us on controlling that. There's a lot of subs, there's a lot of people that could potentially be in the building. So if we can limit that and limit the path and the areas they go into, we will. But again, I will assure you, all vendors, before they even come to the building, they've got protocols that they need to adhere to. And one of them is asking their tenant, their staff, maybe not, it's not a temperature scan, but it's, have you been sick? Have you been in touch with anybody or near anybody that has been sick lately? And if so, we can then restrict them to not coming into the building. I will also say, to that point, our staff, what we're doing is if anybody has contracted the coronavirus, they will not be coming back to work until we get a positive test result. Excuse me, negative test result, not positive. So, and we've asked the vendors that same. So if anybody does let us know that they've got an employee or staff member that came down with it, they're not allowed to come back to the building until they can prove from their doctor that they have now a clear bill of health, and then they're welcome to come back to the building. So, all right, like I said, reach out. You guys have been great about communicating. Will you do a walkthrough for those of us who remained open? A walkthrough of the space, I think that may be the question. The question was, will you do a walkthrough for those of us who remained open? I'm not sure I understand the question. A walkthrough of the space. I don't know if this relates to cleaning, but shoot me an email. I'm happy to kind of go through that in a little more detail. But we've done, I think if you're asking how are we going to do all those pre or re-occupancy checks in the building, and the answer is yes. So the guys have been, as I mentioned, routinely checking the buildings, but even if you remained open, they're going to make sure all of those systems are checked before, even if you're still there. It's kind of their routine weekly inspections anyway, but it's just, we're going to heighten it and add a few things to it to make sure that we're ready for those that are coming back. Because as you mentioned, we had a lot of tenants that still were operational, which was great. Maybe even with, scaled back staff, but for those people, we still answered work orders, in a safe manner, and we still check those systems. We can do a lot remotely, which is great, from HVAC controls and things of that nature. So, but yes, we'll certainly make sure that all the systems are checked, all the preventive maintenance, all the quarterly PMs are done as they normally are. And it was just kind of we scaled back on anything that wasn't priority. And now, as of Monday, the guys are back full-time at the buildings and continuing to go through the systems and making sure the buildings are ready. So good question. I think that's what you meant. If not, reach out. But yeah, I think that's all I have. Can't thank you guys enough. I see you coming in again. One more after this. All right. I like it. I'm going to install hand sanitizer stations by the entrances of the building. We have a bunch that we put in immediately in March where we could get them. If there's still some missing, it's probably because we're just waiting on, we ordered more stock and sanitizing dispensers. Again, we jumped in front of that. We thought we got it in early, but believe it or not, we went through quite a bit. So to answer your question, the goal is entryways, outside, inside bathrooms where we can. Those are the areas we're focusing. Fitness center obviously already has some, outside cafes. Common areas, high touch point areas, that's where we'll be, we have installed or we will be installing once they come in, more sanitizing stations to, help, as much as we can. If you need them in your space, again, it's hard, they're hard to come by, they're available, and they will, continue to make the products, but we can try to help give you our tenant vendors if you guys are hitting roadblocks with gathering that stuff for your own space. So we'll circulate our vendor list so that you can kind of use our resources, potentially have some purchasing, take advantage of some purchasing power that we do in bulk. All right, so there's one more. Trying to find the question. All right. Well,
that walkthrough question, it was just a review for this.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, we'd be happy to. We can go through your space. We can, we can offer our opinion services, the engineers. If you've got some space plans or things you're thinking of. Another question that has come up, thank you for reminding me, that the whole 25% rule, initially people were asking about their occupancy, how many people did they have, how do we know if it's 25%? So Again, there's a couple limiting factors. When you all first built out your spaces, there were certificates of occupancy. That could have been last year, could have been 10 years ago for some of you. So have things changed since then? Probably. So there's a couple kind of, again, limiting factors that go into it. It's not just like, oh, you have 100 people, you get 25% of that. There's fixtures, there's egresses, there's all sorts of things that the architects put in for code. But outside of that, I would say if you don't have your C of O, or you don't want to count people because maybe you're already over your C of O, the language that the state has now come out with, if all of that is aside, you can just use your occupancy number, your average occupancy number from March 1. So if you knew roughly how many people were in your space or how many employees you had in March, 25% of that can come back to the buildings in this first phase rollout. And again, back to the COVID police, we're not going to police it. We're going to, lean on the tenants to adhere to those guidelines. If we see somebody grossly, abusing that, we may have to step in. But I think, I don't see anybody running back and stuffing the buildings. I think, from listening to most of you, you're phasing back into this. And if anything, we're already into the summer season, which is a slowdown season anyway, and we'll take advantage of that and really just kind of phase back in, as you see fit, for each of your different businesses. But appreciate the questions on that because it's important. It's hard to know what that means and how many people can be in the space. But no, we're not going to police it unless we run into an issue. We're just going to hope that, and lean on the tenants to adhere to those guidelines that the state has rolled out. And I don't anticipate an issue. I think you guys will all work hard to, come back in a safe and orderly manner, but so that you can get back to work and make sure that, your operations are continuing. And we had a long time here together at FoxRock, hopefully. So I think we'll close it on that note. Again, reach out. Thank you for your continued support through these interesting times. I know it's hard on you guys. You're trying to deal with things at home and working from home and your own businesses, and we're just a small part of that. But we hope that we can provide that, that level of comfort that when you do want to come back and you're ready to come back, your employees are going to feel comfortable, and we're going to make it safe. And then we're still going to try to do some fun things, in a safe manner that we can to kind of all get through this together. So. On that note, I'll sign off. Please contact us. Thank you again. And hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk soon. Thank you.